and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 15 things that I don't do as a Christian mother and as a Christian homemaker. So let's get started. Now, for those that don't know me yet, my name is Stephanie. I'm a wife and I'm a mom to 3 beautiful kids, and I love being at home. I love homeschooling our children, I love homemaking, and I love sharing about how we, as Christian women, can walk in that role as a mother and as a homemaker. So if that is something that you love to learn more about, feel free to subscribe and let's get started with today's video. Now, before we start, I do want to add a little bit of a disclaimer at the beginning, and I know this is probably not even necessary, but I'm gonna say it anyway, and that is that this is a list of things that I don't do, but I'm not saying that this is something that you should copy completely and that you need to do all the things that I do or don't do. So what I wanted to achieve with this video is maybe just give you some inspiration for things that you might want to add into your life, but I'm not saying that this is a perfect list and that this is something that everybody should be doing. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, let's start with the first one. Okay, so the first thing that I really don't like to do is compare our home to other people. And this is something that I'm really working on because it's not easy for me, because we live in a rental home and it's kind of small actually, and we don't live in a neighborhood that we love. We don't actually live in a city that we even want to live in, but that doesn't mean that I cannot be grateful for the things that I do have. And that is something that I'm constantly telling myself to not compare my home to others. So it's not necessarily something that I never do, but it's something that I really focus on to not do on a daily basis. So when I go online and I see all those beautiful homesteads and I see all those people that live in homes that I would love to live in, I always tell myself, you have a beautiful home. You have a home, which not everybody in the world can say that. I mean, we live in a home, we have a roof over our head, we have food on the table, so we are very blessed. So that is something that I really try to tell myself, but it is tough. So I really try to focus on not comparing our home to other people's homes. And the second one is actually one that is kind of similar to that, and that is that I don't like to compare our family to other people. And this is also something that is really hard in today's society, because when you look online and you look on Instagram and you look on Facebook or on YouTube, there are so many people that share their life online, and it can really easily feel like they're doing so much better than we are. They are teaching their children the Bible for 40 minutes a day and you only do 30, for example. Those are those small things that can really creep into mothers and homemakers easily, because we always feel like we're not doing enough. At least that is what I hear online all the time. So what I want to encourage you with is try to not compare your home and your family to other people. And like I said, this is pretty tough. And this is something that I'm working on myself too, but really focus on how can I improve and what can I do to become 1% better every single day or every single week or every single month, whatever works for you. Instead of saying, okay, they have the perfect family, we don't, so I'm going to give up right here. That is not the attitude that we need to have. We need to focus on, okay, what do we have? Do we want to improve? Yes, of course, we always have some things that we can do better, but that doesn't mean that our family is doing worse than theirs. So never compare yourself to others. Just try to learn from other people and try to implement it into your life. But we don't know all the things that people are going through, and it looks perfect maybe online and you think that they have the perfect family, but that is not always the case. So try to focus on your own family. What are the needs of your family? What are the needs of your children, of your husband? How can you serve them well instead of doing what other people are doing? And that is why I put the little disclaimer in the beginning. Don't do what other people are doing, but focus on, okay, how can that be an inspiration for me? And maybe you can implement it into your life. And sometimes I hear beautiful things online and I think that is beautiful, that is amazing, but it doesn't work for my family, so I'm just gonna leave it there. And that is okay. We don't always have to do all the things that other people are doing. So focus on your own home, focus on your own family, and stick to that and make that better instead of doing what other people are doing. Now, the third one is we do not spend a lot of time outside of the home. And what I mean with that is we don't do a lot of extra activities outside of the home. Yes, we go to the park, and yes, we do fun things and the children play outside every single day, but most of the time we are at home. We do our homeschool work, we do our household chores, all those things that I really need to get done every single day, and that just happens around the house, and that is okay. We love being at home, the children love being at home, and even though we don't live in our beautiful homestead, that doesn't mean that you cannot love being at home. So we don't go out of the home or outside of our street, I should say, that often, but that is okay. Our children have a lot of time that they spend with friends. We go to church, we go to the park, We do all those fun things, but most of our time is spent at home, and we love it that way. Now, number 4 is we do not use the TV as our babysitter. And that is actually something that is maybe controversial, but if you know my channel, if you've seen any of my videos, then you probably know that we don't even own a TV. So it's kind of impossible, but I also don't want our children to have to sit in front of a TV just because I want to do something. I want to do most of the things with my children, and if it's not possible to do it with the children, then I want an actual human inside the home and not the TV as a babysitter. So we don't use the TV just to keep the children busy. So number 5 actually has a lot to do with number 4, and that is we don't allow negative influence inside our home. And I say it has a lot to do with number 4 because a lot of that actually comes through a TV and through a screen, I should say. So what that looks like is we hardly ever watch the news. We are very careful about what our children actually do watch. So if they want to watch a show, we are very careful about that. And one of the things that we actually really love to watch is Go Minnow. It is a Christian streaming service, and there are so many fun shows for children on there. And that is just a really fun, very cheap option for children to watch just safe and normal Christian shows. So if you want to try that, I actually have a link that I will put in the description below where you can try it for free. But it's just a really fun streaming service that the children can watch safely. So that is what we do watch, but we really try to make sure that what they watch and what comes into our home is not negative. And that is through all of our screens, but that's also in books and all the other things. So we just make sure that whatever comes into our home is actually worth it. Number 6 is I do not make everything from scratch. And that is something that you see online a lot, especially for homemakers, but we don't have to make everything from scratch. Yes, I love to cook, and yes, I love to make a lot of the things from scratch, but I do not make my own bone broth, and that is okay. I don't always make my own bread. Yes, I love to bake bread, but that doesn't mean that I never buy anything from the store. You don't always have to force yourself into having to do everything from scratch. It is great if you can. If you can't, that's okay too. So number 7 is we do not really listen to secular music a lot. And that, I say a lot because sometimes we do listen to that, and that is mostly jazz music or things like that. But other than that, usually with the children, we just listen to very calm, peaceful worship music that can be put on in the background and that I know all the lyrics are safe to listen to. Because a lot of the times when you put the radio on, for example, there are so many lyrics that you really don't want your children to hear. So we are very careful with what comes into our home, and that is also through music. And one of our favorites is scripture lullabies, and I will also put that link to the scripture lullaby playlist that we have in the description below, so you can listen to it too, because that is just, it is just lullaby versions of scripture, and that is just, it's really beautiful as background music. Number 8 is I never ever live without a planner or at least a routine. Some days I don't use my planner, but that hardly ever happens because if it's not written down in my planner, it doesn't happen. Mom brain, I guess. But I really need my planner. I really need a routine, and I really need to know what I have to do every single day. So I never go without a routine, and I hardly ever go without a planner. Now, number 9 is I don't work on a Sunday. And that is something that I really learned to implement into our life because I used to do all the things all the time. And I really felt like I needed my rest. And God rested on the 7th day of creation. So why do we ever think that we don't need rest? That just doesn't make sense. But I started to implement that about, I think, 2 years ago, and it has made such a difference. I don't work on a Sunday. I try to do as little as possible in the home too. So what I love to do is cook our Sunday dinner on a Saturday. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes I just go for a very quick and easy meal, but I really try to do as little as possible. So of course I do the dishes, and of course I have to cook or I have to prep breakfast or whatever. But I don't deep clean the oven, for example, or I don't do laundry on a Sunday. That is a day where I try to do as minimal as possible. So number 10 is something that I hardly ever do. It's not something that we never do, but hardly ever, and that is buy convenience or fast food. And that is just because I don't like the taste of it. It is really bad for your body, and in the Netherlands, I'm not sure if that is the same in America. I feel like that is cheaper over there, but in the Netherlands, it is very expensive. Go to McDonald's with 5 people and you will spend a ton of money. And that is just not worth it for me. I would rather cook a home cooked meal that is more nutritious, that is more delicious, that is gonna cost me like a quarter of how much I would spend at McDonald's. So we hardly ever buy fast food. with the exception of pizza. We love pizza in this house. Usually I make it myself at home, but sometimes we do splurge on a Domino's pizza, and that is okay. I mean, we don't have to always do everything 100%. I wholeheartedly believe in the 80-20 rule. 80% is doing the very best that you can, and 20% is just sometimes we can buy fast food. Number 11 is I never let perfectionism take over, and that is because I learned that having something done is better than having it done perfectly, and that is just something in every area of our life, but I really don't want to postpone things just because I want it to be perfect. I want things to be done, and I'd rather make a mistake and then fix that mistake instead of having perfectionism holding me back and allowing me to never do anything. And that is just something that I had to learn, to just do the thing. And if it's not perfect, that is okay. We can learn from that and we can fix our mistakes, but it doesn't always have to be perfect. And that goes for everything. Now, number 12 is one that I've talked about on this channel a couple of times before, and that is I don't allow myself to be lazy. And that is just something that I've struggled with so much in the past. And I actually did a few videos about that, so I will link those up here. But I have been so lazy in the past, and that is just because that is what I learned, to just be lazy. And if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. And I learned that that is not the way to go, and that is not what God asks of us. He just asks us to do everything that we do diligently and to work as unto the Lord and to make sure that what we do wholeheartedly. And so just by reading my Bible, I learned that laziness is not from Him. So that is something that I never allow myself to do. Does that mean I never sit down on the couch and read a book? No, because that is something that gives you rest. But sitting on the couch and thinking, okay, I really don't want to cook dinner, so I'm just not going to do it, that is something that I don't allow myself to do. So it doesn't mean that you're never allowed to rest. It just means that you don't allow yourself to be lazy, and that you don't allow yourself to say, I don't want to do this, so I'm not going to do it. So laziness and rest are two different things. Don't forget that. Now, number 13 is I don't entertain my children all day, every day. And that is something that I actually implemented from a very early age. I want them to learn how to entertain themselves. And that is not by using a screen. That is not by sitting in front of a TV. Entertaining yourself can mean, okay, I don't know what to do, so grab your coloring pages or grab your cars or build something with your blocks. Whatever you want to do, let them be creative and think of something instead of always entertaining them and always giving them something to do, instead of allowing them to be creative themselves. Because whenever I let them be creative, there have been so many times when they make something amazing. That even happened last week. Our son was very bored and he didn't really know what to do. So he grabbed his coloring pages and he thought he was going to color. Then he flipped the page over and he thought, you know what? I'm actually going to draw something myself. And he drew the entire resurrection story. So he drew the moment that Jesus was standing in front of Pilate, then how he went to the cross, how he rose up from the dead, because obviously we've been talking about Easter. And it was so fun to see him do that because he was bored. And an hour later, he came and showed me that beautiful picture of what he drew and of the memory that he has from all the stories that we read that week. And that's just so beautiful. I love it when they think of something themselves and then actually make something beautiful. So allow them to be bored sometimes and to just think of something themselves, because a lot of the times that is when the fun happens. Now, number 14 is I don't expect my husband to do things around the home. And I don't say that he never does anything around the home, but it's not something that I expect of him. I am the homemaker, I am responsible for our home, and he works outside of the home and he is responsible for having an income. So I don't expect him to help me out inside the home. Now, does it mean that he never does anything? Obviously not. He helps me around, and if he does that, that is something I'm very grateful for, but I don't expect him to do the dishes when he comes home. I was the one that was home all day, and yes, there are so many things that I did as well, but it doesn't mean that he has to do the things that I actually should be doing. And this is something that is very different for people and for their family dynamics, because if you are a mother that works outside of the home and you do 50-50, for example, that looks completely different. But in our case, my husband works outside of the home. I am home all day with the children, so I can take 5 minutes of my day and finish the dishes before he comes home. So I don't expect him to do that. And then lastly, the most important one is I don't ever try to do everything by my own strength. I need the Lord every single day, every single hour, every single minute of the day. So I really don't ever try to do everything on my own strength. I don't ever try to figure everything out by myself, I always lean on the Lord. So I make sure that I spend as much time with him as I can. I read my Bible with the children. I pray with him all day, every day. So I really make sure that what I do is always with him and not by my own strength. And if you don't really know how to implement that into your everyday life, I also did a video about that, so I will put that link up here in the iCard as well. But I really want to encourage you never to try and do all the things by yourself, because we can't. We need him all the time. So make sure that you do it in connection with him and that you ask him for help. So those were the 15 things that I personally don't do as a homemaker and as a mother. But again, this is not a list that you should copy completely. Find the inspiration that you need. And if you have any questions about this video, feel free to ask them down below, because I love to talk to you in the comments. So let me know down below what you think of it. And what are some things that you are not doing as a Christian mother that a lot of people actually do? I'm very curious about that. So let me know down below, and I would love to see you in my next video.